Most landscaping companies don't fail at marketing because they're just bad at it, right? They fail because they don't really understand the math behind it and how to actually make it work in their favor. I'm Charles and I run Become the Authority. We're a marketing automations agency that works with landscaping companies, and we built and install a system called JobFlow, which connects advertising, follow-up, and operations so marketing can turn into predictable revenue instead of guesswork. And usually when our landscapers implement this, they tend to see anywhere from 30 to 50% annual growth. And it's not because we find a secret channel or this amazing ad strategy. It's because the business finally understands and supports the economics of growth. So here's the first idea that really changes everything, right? Marketing doesn't fail because it costs money. It fails because the business doesn't really understand what it's buying. A lot of landscapers think about advertising as just an expense, but you really have to think of advertising as more of a trade. You are trading dollars for customers. The problem is most businesses never slow down long enough to understand the trade of what they're actually making. So let's break this down with some simple math. I want to imagine that it costs you $200 to acquire a customer, not a lead, a customer. Okay. Now imagine that customer is worth $5,000 in total revenue. Now that might be $5,000 in a maintenance contract that's paid out over time, or it could be a one-time payment because you did a hardscaping project, or maybe it's a combination of initial work plus the follow-up services. But point is, once you truly understand the math, the decision becomes simple. You would make that trade every single time because $200 in advertising costs for $5,000 worth of revenue is in no way risky. What feels risky is not knowing whether the system will actually convert the opportunities and turn those leads into actual customers. And that's where a lot of landscaping advertising tends to break down. It's not so much the cost, it's the uncertainty and not really understanding how much you're gaining from the amount of money that you're putting out every single month. So let's look at why that uncertainty exists. We notice that a lot of landscaping companies are advertising themselves and they're pulling in a lot of low margin one-off jobs. Let's say that you pull in, the average job is around $400. Advertising costs may be $150 to $200 per booked job. That math is really tight. And one missed call is going to wipe out profit, one delayed follow-up is going to hurt your margins, and one no-show really just destroys the entire month. That's really not a marketing failure, that's just fragile economics inside of your advertising model, okay? And this is why advertising feels so stressful for so many landscapers. The jobs being advertised cannot tolerate any form of inefficiency. Operators, real operators, solve this by simply changing what they advertise, right? So recurring maintenance contracts change that math entirely, right? If you spend $200 to acquire a customer who pays you $200 per month on the low end, that customer breaks even in the first month. Every month after that is profit. And that means that the marketing stops being emotional. You're not wondering, hey, did this ad work? You're asking, how many contracts did we add this quarter? Because that's the real measure of whether or not your advertising is effective. That predictability is what's going to allow you to consistently reinvest back into your business. High ticket hardscaping projects do something similar, but in a slightly different way. If you spend $500 on advertising, but you generate a $5,000 to $10,000 project, you don't necessarily need perfection in all of your sales funnels and everything like that. You don't need every lead to close. You don't need flawless follow-up every single time. The margin absorbs a lot of the friction. And that's why these ads feel easy for some companies and impossible for others. It's not about the actual advertising skill, it's about the structure and what it is that you're trying to advertise and what offers you're putting out there. So let's talk about the second constraint most people ignore. Conversion timing can double or even triple the chance of booking the job compared to waiting 15 or 30 minutes. Sometimes it's instantly if they have the time. Sometimes it's literally the next day because they're so busy. And that inconsistency creates inconsistent results, okay? The advertising wasn't the part that was random. It was the response system that was random. All right. Now, the third constraint is usually trust compression, okay? Modern buyers don't necessarily decide instantly. They check reviews, they compare options, they look for signals that you're legitimate and active. And if they don't see you again, if they only see your ad once and then they never see you again, the decision might just stall. Not because the interest disappeared, but because there was never any confidence formed, okay? And that's why you need to have your follow-up, your reviews, and your retargeting dialed in order to not only create demand, but reinforce it. So this is what happens when businesses understand that math. Okay? That same ad spend that they put out there that you might be complaining about produces steady results for other landscapers, right? The revenue becomes predictable, marketing decisions stop being so emotional, growth becomes something you plan for instead of hope for. And that's the difference between doing marketing and actually running a growth system inside of your business. If advertising has felt inconsistent in your landscaping business, the issue isn't effort, creativity, or anything like that. It's that you never actually understood the economics of what you were advertising and how it breaks down inside of your business. So if you want to see how the math actually works in your business, what it costs to acquire a customer, what that customer is worth, and where the uncertainty is being introduced, I want you to book a job flow systems teardown. On that call, we're going to break down your numbers, your follow-up, and your conversion sequence, and we can see exactly where you're missing out on profitability. And whether you work with us or not, you'll leave that call knowing whether your marketing problem is a traffic issue, a conversion issue, or a mixture of both, okay? So there's gonna be a link right down below when you're ready. We'll see you on the next one. Later.